Oh, hello neighbor. I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. Well, welcome back to the channel. Ignore me, I'm a weirdo. We're out here today with this Girsan MC P35. It's kind of a mouthful of a name. It reminds me of the McLaren MP4-12C. It sounds like a printer, but hey, who cares? This thing here is the budget entry version of a Browning high power, or the SA35 or the P35, whatever you guys may know it as. High power HI, high power HIGH, whatever you want to call it. It's been labeled as all of them. But this one is your most budget-oriented one out on the market. These things go for about, I think I've seen them for $450 to $500-ish bucks. So you can kind of find them all over the place nowadays. Not a bad bang for your buck for what it is, honestly. All right, so with this particular high power, we're gonna do it just like we do everything else. We're gonna go hold the pole. We're gonna go ahead and start off with our grips here. So these are Hogue Rosewood smooth grips. I went with those because, well, I think they look really pretty. They don't do well with my sweaty palms sometimes, but that was just a poor decision on my part. I probably should have gotten something checkered. But it is leaps and bounds nicer than what came on this thing from Girsan. They kind of modeled them after the, was it the Mark IV high powers from the 80s? But they're kind of plasticky and chintzy feeling, and I didn't care for them. I changed those like right off the bat. I did also add some Allen-headed screws to these. The high powers, they tend to, the grips loosen up rather quickly. I should probably put just a little bit of blue Loctite on the screws also, but I like the hex head screws. It's a little bit easier to tighten. You don't have to worry about stripping out the straight headed screws on it also. So the mags on these also, as we're moving along here, they come in capacities for your normal flush fitting mags, 10 rounds to 15 rounds. I think past the 15 they start to be extended, what have you. I do have a silly 32 round magazine here that we want to do some shenanigans with, because why not? Rat shit's fun. Go do some. But yeah, so 10 to 15 rounds plus one, obviously. Pretty common. It's not super high like some of your Glocks and stuff like that, but it's also not super low like some of your single stack stuff. So back when these things were just kind of came out back in the mid 30s ish, that was kind of a big deal. They originally came out with 13 round mags, so that was kind of a big deal for pistols back then, because most everything was single stack. I mean, look at your 45 caliber 1911s, single stack. Same thing with like the Walthers and the Lugers, all single stack. So kind of a neat little piece of history there. Moving up here, as you can see, I have an Optic on this high power, which is not super common, especially without cutting into the slide. So I did some gunsmith things to get this Optic on here. Go ahead and roast me, but I don't care. It's a cheap pistol, it's a cheap mount, and it works. It hasn't fallen off yet, so that's a thing. But getting into the details of this Optic setup, the red dot is a Burris Fastfire 3. So far, so good. I don't have a lot of experience with pistol optics. This is kind of my first foray into that. But I do like this Burris one so far. My only complaint on it is it doesn't have shake awake. It's just a button on the side. But so far, so good on that. I mean, the Optic is obviously the good part of this, but we'll sink a little bit lower to the mount itself. So this mount is actually two different mounts. They came from the same company. Damn, and that company is called SAWK, S-A-W-K-E. Never heard of them before. It's probably some Chinese thing. I got them on Amazon. But they make a couple different dovetail style mounting plates for optics. This one is a combination between the 1911 plate that they offer and the Beretta 92F plate that they offer. So I'm using the plate itself for the 1911s, and then I'm using the dovetail from the 92. That seems to work the best on this, and so far so good. Some growing pains that I've noticed with that setup. Initially I was using the dovetail for the 1911, which is a little bit smaller than it should be for the high power, well, the Girsan slide, the way that that dovetail is cut. That one did rattle loose, so I went with a little bit larger 92F dovetail part of this setup, and that worked a lot better. I also went from blue Loctite to red Loctite. Yeah, I know. No, I hear you. Yeah, you in the back there. I get it. It's kind of hacky, but like I said before, it's a $500 pistol, and you know what? It's my pistol. I don't plan on getting rid of it, and I don't plan on letting other people really use it for anything. It's mine. But in all reality, it's worked out pretty well so far. It's nice and solid. That blue Loctite that I had on it the first go around, the hardware did come loose and it did rattle around. But surprisingly, it didn't hold the 0, but it was close to it. We were kind of running some Mozambiques and that type of a deal. And I was getting A-zones and headshots pretty consistently, even with the Optic rattling around on there, which I was pretty impressed with, actually. But I did update it since then, obviously, like I said, and I haven't had it come loose at all, so it holds a 0 and it works as it should. Moving forward to the trigger here, so it's got kind of it's a mil-spec feeling trigger. If you're familiar with the mil-spec trigger on an AR, it feels similar to that, in my opinion. It has a fairly clean break. It's about a 5.5 pound pull. I think the single stage on these high powers like this is pretty sweet. The reset's a little bit goofy. It's very, very soft, and sometimes you can't quite tell when it resets. So I've found myself kind of screwing myself up on that at the range a couple times, but it's just a matter of getting more and more used to that pistol platform.
And the reset I don't feel.
So another interesting thing on the trigger on this high power is Girsan advertises it as a slim trigger, which had me kind of scratching my head when I read that. So I got the tape measure out and I kind of got to looking and comparing to some of my other high powers. Now I'm not quite sure why they call it slim, because it is the exact width of an original high power. So I don't quite get that. It's a 1/4 inch wide. So not exactly slim. So I don't know, just a marketing thing, I guess. But I thought that was kind of interesting. Girsan did make some updates to this particular version of the high power, one of which being the ambidextrous safety. Has a nice positive click there. There's not much else to be said about the safety, really. But it is nice that it is ambi. That being said, the slide release is not ambidextrous, so, you know, that's something I guess they could have, but they probably would have sacrificed a little bit of the classic looks doing that also. Secondly, they also opened up the ejection port compared to the original high powers. So that was kind of a thing on the originals where it was a little bit easier to get stoppages and stuff like that with brass hanging out in that port. But like I said, they opened this one up a little bit to try and alleviate that issue, and I haven't had any stoppages with this thing thus far. So at the time of recording this, we do have about 1,700-ish rounds through this thing, so it is definitely through its break-in period, that's for sure. We have shot a bunch of different types of ammo through it. We've shot a bunch of the what is it, the Syntech stuff from Federal through it. It's kind of that polymer type ammunition, what have you. We've shot a bunch of different grains through it. We've shot 115, 124, and I think, what was it, 148 is the heavy grain 9mm, I don't recall. We've shot some carry ammo, we've shot plus P. Just a heads up on that, in the manual they say not to shoot plus P through it. Must blow the gun up. I don't know, it didn't for us, so that's cool. But I believe that does void the warranty, so don't be like me, I guess. Or at least don't admit to it, or don't film it and put it on YouTube admitting to it. Took one for the team, guys. In that 1,700 rounds, I haven't had any stoppages that I recall. Maybe 1 or 2 in the very beginning.
Syntech 124 grain. And alright, so we had a failure to feed right off the slide lock, but I believe that is this crummy mag. I don't remember, it's an off-brand mag, but you can see, I bet if I give her a good slap, should be good. It was doing that with the S&B also. Have the Syntech 147 grain. Alright, so first round we have a failure to feed there. Kind of nosedive a little bit into the feed ramp. See if we can clear that.
But nothing substantial enough that I remember. The only thing I've noticed about the pistol in those 1700 rounds is, at this point, it has developed a bit of play in the slide. So, drop the mag here. I'm sure you guys can probably hear that from here. So it's starting to develop that sound that M9s get when they've been in service for far too long. So, I mean, there's a lot of play. I mean, if you compare that to my OG high power, there's a little bit there, but it's not. So, I don't know. We'll, obviously I'm going to keep sending rounds through it, and if it fails, it fails. Hopefully it's not failing into my face, but we'll see. And you guys will definitely see that if it happens. But so far, so good on it. Like I said, there's been nothing catastrophic that's happened with it. No real stoppages that I remember off the top of my head. Overall, it's been a pretty darn good pistol. So, all in all, if you guys like high powers, go out and get one. If you like this high power, tell me why you like it. If you don't like this high power, tell me why you don't like it. If you hate that I gunsmithed this mount onto it, roast me, light me up. I want to hear it. It's fun. Other than that, I want to say thanks for watching if you made it this far. Yeah, if you want to see more high powers, we have more in the cannon that will blast at you. So stick around for that. Like, share, subscribe, do all that fun shit. I am out of here. More in particular, nope, too many particulars there. You can't be too particular about it.